Welcome to another episode of Equity Mates on AusBiz. My name is Bryce, and as always, joined by my equity buddy, Ren. How are you going?
I'm very good, Bryce.
That's good.
We are in Thursday's episode, the
Yes.
end of our week, and the fourth of our four-part long-form interview. It's been great this week.
It has been. We've had the pleasure of having Conrad with us, who is the Managing Director and Founder of Macro Investment Group. Conrad, welcome back.
Awesome to be here.
So we're going to speak a bit about entrepreneurship, building a business, and a little bit about the FinTech landscape, raising capital. So a bit to get through today. But look, FinTech is often coupled with the idea of blockchain and crypto. So let's start with that. What's your general thoughts on the crypto space at the moment? And is it something that we're going to see macro delve into?
I get asked this actually quite a lot because I think there has been, so the first thing that people should know is a lot of these tokens or cryptocurrencies that are being created and are available to buy and sell on other exchanges, they usually have like a project, right, that they're revolved around, whether it's a tokenization of it or it's a whole new type of blockchain technology or adaptation of it. There's a bunch of different variations, or it's just like a meme token with utilization value, right? So utility value. And so, naturally in the space that we're in, which is FinTech, finance, we've got the experience for it. We've got, the actual credibility and the correct operational procedures and policies to run a financial services project. It's something that I get asked a lot. Firstly, I believe in the technology. I really do. I think it has been there's been all this debate about whether the price should be where it is and is it the tulip bubble again. And there's definitely a debate for that because the way that it is based on price speculation. I mean, how do you value this technology, right? Or how do you value, whatever the price it is reflected at, especially if the technology is different, right? And let alone different concepts of value like meme tokens. And so, and then you've got currencies and all that sort of stuff. And so I believe in the technology, and I really have been following pretty closely for a long time actually. I was back in the day before macro, when I first was at the University of Sydney, I was trying to start a Bitcoin trading platform. So I'm one of those really painful souls that was in front of a trading platform at $200, right? And was like, I'll buy it one day, right? I'll get it there. And look, I was a uni student, didn't have much cash, and all the money that I was going into was trying to build this trading platform. Long story short, it didn't pan out. But but I've always been an avid follower of sort of the journey that Bitcoin is going through. Now, in terms of whether we would go into it, I mean, so for example, there's that ETF and that's come out, and there's a lot of money piling towards it. I think it's a crazy number that's invested in cryptocurrencies across the world now. Is there as a business owner or an entrepreneur, is there an opportunity to make money? Like, sure. Is it something that I'm comfortable and willing to have my shareholders take a risk on, given the lack of sustainability or consistency that exists in the industry? Probably not at this stage, to form a whole business around it just yet. I mean, we might have exposure into the area through, let's say, a research product that we have, or provide our clients access to gaining exposure into cryptocurrencies, or even through the fund. So there's many ways that we can get sort of that exposure of the upside of crypto. But the upside of crypto, like I said, is very speculative right now. It takes like Elon Musk to put out a quote saying that, whatever he says, there's a bunch of stuff. Shiba Inu, for example, which is like the second Dogecoin, which is a crazy thing that's happening right now. I think that was up like 50% overnight, like just last night. And it's almost like people are just like, well, if Dogecoin is worth this much, why couldn't Shiba Inu be worth that much? And the only reason why people are, the rumor is that they're going to jump on this massive exchange on Robinhood, right? So there's all of that value add. But it's like, well, this is kind of the, thought process that I think if I was alive back all those years ago for the tulip bubble, I think that's probably what this would have felt like. So based off that, and I think, the limited, I think, establishment yet, it's one of those areas that we wouldn't just dive into as a business.
Yeah.
Would I invest in it? That's another question. So,
Yeah, the idea of cryptos being listed on Coinbase and then Robinhood is very similar to the thought process of small cap managers thinking if it gets in the ASX 300 and then the ASX 200, it'll just be like increased demand. And
all it is, right? It's all the flow of capital, and cryptocurrencies is just a very smaller version of what you kind of do see in the equity markets every day. Like the reason why people are happy to pay more for it is because there's more demand of money going into it, right? That's all this is. And so when you list a company, it's like people know about it and they can invest in it. So there's more liquidity to be put into them. Now, there's obviously the price adjustment as to what it should be worth. And that's a lot easier for a company that you can value, or even a currency that you can value. Whereas, trying to do that for, technology, which is really quite difficult for the layman person to understand. Yeah, it's very challenging.
So if we move to entrepreneurship, you've started a FinTech, and I'm sure a lot of people in the Equity Mates audience and in the AusBiz audience would love to do the same thing. Be an entrepreneur, start a company. I guess when you think back to those very early days, what do you wish you knew back then?
Stay on the Bitcoin train.
Forget being an entrepreneur. Invest in Bitcoin.
Yes, many nights. A lot of things actually. So I would have realized very early on that the people that I do business with is probably the most important thing. I think I've suffered more damage to my progression or to where I wanted to be, or where the business should have been, based on other people, which ultimately the buck stops with me from having engaged with those people. But beggars can't be choosers as well. I was like a 23-year-old kid, right? 22-year-old kid who wanted to start a business because he'd been a broker for a year and a bit, right? I had to sort of utilize the relationships that I had, but as you go along, and whether it's the partners that you set up with, the employees that you hire, or the third-party businesses that you operate with, I think that is a huge thing that they don't teach you in school. There's a thing called caliber of people, like that exists. People are wired differently, and there are people that are worth the money and people that are not. And I think it's very hard to know that too. It's like, people are very good at hiding that. And also when you're a lot younger, it's very easy to be, I guess, get impressed upon that someone is quite valuable. And then, many legal fees later, you realize that you're better off without it. But the other thing is it's very lonely. It's an extremely lonely path. I spoke about this on another podcast actually, so I'll repeat myself. But one of my dear friends, now he's a dear friend, and but he originally started off as a major shareholder of this business. We had dinner one night, and he was, he's been in business for a long time, he's been around money for a long time, and he's like, it's very, very lonely, this path that you're about to embark on. And I was like, man, I got this. What are you talking about? Like, I'm fine. But for so many different reasons, which I can't sort of go into all of them, but it is an extremely lonely path. The people that you think are closest to you generally want something from you. The more successful that your business gets, the more opportunity that you can provide to people. And it's very hard for you to identify what is what. I guess, even like trying, like I'm quite young in the sense that it started when I was 23. And so, my management style has grown from trying to be everyone's friend I was kind of like Steve Carell from The Office, right? Like just thinking that, I'm a good guy I have high morals and I don't want to screw anyone over. Hopefully that's enough. And it's not. It's definitely not. And you know, you're trying to manage people that are older than you and more experienced than you, which you need. You need people who are smarter than you to work for you, for things to work. So even internally in the business, it was a real struggle for me to really find the right team. You know, it took some time, but now we have that. And, you know, I wish I had that when we first started. I wish I had the right people, right? And I didn't have to go through that. But I guess you can't regret anything, and it's natural. But that would, if my piece of advice would be, yeah, partner up with the right people. If you have to partner up with someone, whether it's employees or founders or third parties, just be very selective with who you work with. Yeah.
And then for those entrepreneurs who are fortunate enough to be in a position to now look at raising some cash, you've obviously been through that process and have helped others as well. What would be some of your key takeaways or pieces of advice for those at that stage in their entrepreneurship journey?
It's very, I mean, it's like any project. It's like any internal project in the business, whether it's a marketing initiative, whether it's setting up a new division, whether it's hiring people. Like, you need to have a strategy. You need to identify what resources that you can allocate to it and then execute, right? So, you know, a lot of people, they get caught up in this idea that, hey, like, my business is great, you know, everyone should invest in it. It's like, well, do you have a valuation set up, right? Do you have the presentation worked out? Who are the people that are going to vouch for your company, you know, on the board? You know, so there's all these questions that you need to go through. But you know, one of the great things about, or fortunate things that I've, you know, been lucky enough to be in is a company that raises capital, right? So we raise capital for example, as lead broker for an IPO for Pan Asia Metals, which did pretty well. So I'll just plug it in here. We got in at 12 cents pre-IPO and it's trading at like 50, 60 cents now, right? Anyways, but you know, there's other companies that we've been involved in, and they take time to list and everything like that. But having that institutional broker relationship, you know, having clients, wholesale clients that are very interested in early stage businesses, you know, I think that is in line with our strategic ability to execute. So it's like, you got to have that strategy and go, okay, like anything, how am I going to get there? And realize that it's not this like, just, you know, okay, I feel like I deserve capital and I should have it. It's a big hustle. You've got to, you know the right people. You have to have the right assets in place to get the valuation that you want. But even then, it's like, one of the things that I always firmly stand by is, you know, there's someone smarter than me who works harder than me, who's probably a better person than me, and even they might not have been successful, right? They might have failed. And so it's like, who am I to think that, you know, I shouldn't get everything perfectly worked out? And so I guess that's the thing, you know, you just want to have that plan, work with the right people. Like, there's companies out there that you can engage with to help you along that journey. And so without going through like a masterclass of raising capital, I think it's, you know, just to, you know, have the strategy and yeah, try to partner up with some good people.
Yeah, well, if you want the masterclass on raising capital, go to Macro's website, go to the contact page, and just hit Conrad up. But look, we're almost out of time, but there's one other question I do want to ask. You know, you started in a sort of finance-focused business and, you know, traditional finance functions, and more you've moved into tech. And, you know, yeah, on Monday's episode, you were talking about the app that you're building, and, you know, you're moving into the online broker space as well. How do you approach the challenge of not being a technical person, a technical founder, but trying to move into the technical space?
Yeah. A couple of things. So interesting story. So it always comes down to the people as well. So like, when I try to start that Bitcoin trading platform, for example, I took up a subject at the University of Sydney, where I was studying, called Intro to Computer Science. Now, I had no interest in computer science, but I went there to find people who did. And so I remember taking this elective, and, you know, like, whilst everyone's like focusing on the coursework, I'm like, screw the readings. I'm trying to look for partners for our group assignment, and then eventually convert them into our group assignment, which is the Bitcoin trading platform. So that was probably an early stage experience where I realized that infrastructure is very important. I had nothing, I had no capital, I had no, like you said, no experience in tech. And so I had to make do with what I had. Now, fast forward, that's what Macro has become. Macro has become an infrastructure where we've got a internal research team, we've got operational administrative staff, we've got a marketing division, we've got, capital to engage with, let's say development agencies and hire people, right? Now, so there's that. There's the fact that sometimes you just got to take advantage of the infrastructure or build it to work with people. The other thing would be to kind of realize that I've done a lot of app development projects, or dev projects now through what we've done. And obviously I won't have the same capabilities as someone who's went to and studied a Bachelor of IT or computer science. But I don't know if Bachelor of IT is even a thing, but yeah. But I understand the architecture of software, right? I understand how the APIs communicate, and as a result, what we need for our specific project. And so I think that comes from just a natural trying to focus on the problem-solving process, right? And so it's so I don't know that, right? But if I was to assume that this worked, so what would that equal? And so it's trying to understand that. And what I found is that at the end of the day, especially if you're working with retail products, it's pretty straightforward, right? Like we use products, and I think we take for granted what we do know. We know when we use a mobile application, the swipe, how smooth that swipe is important to us, right? And it's when it's clunky, you're what is this? I'm uninstalling this, right? Or how quickly the onboarding is. And so there's that user experience and user interface. And then you have other components. Again, I won't delve into them, but it's not as complicated as you'd think. There are definitely barriers that you'll get to where your experience and your knowledge won't allow you to overcome, and that's where you have to do the research or try to find someone to help you for that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you can have a formidable software engineer, and they won't be able to deliver a formidable product. And I think that comes down to there being so many different variables. So I have been very heavily involved in the development of the mobile app and the software that we're building, but it's very much project based. And so, hopefully that kind of answers your question. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, Conrad, unfortunately we have run out of time today, but a massive thank you for giving your time this week. We've covered a lot of ground. If the Equity Mates community or the AusBiz community would like to find more info on you or Macro, what would be the best place?
We love hearing from people directly on the phone line, on the landline, and coming into the office. So that's, obviously now we're out of COVID, we can do that. But naturally, jump onto the website at Macro, so it's macro.com.au. We've got a new website launching on the 1st of November, so that'll be coming out soon. But yeah, just jump online, flick us an email. It can be anything. We're actually, because we've got so many different divisions as well, more than happy to speak about anything.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
No worries.
Just call for the opportunity to call a landline.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare these days.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, that does bring us to the end of our episode today and the end of our week with Conrad. If you enjoyed what he had to say, then certainly go and check him out. If you'd like more info on what we do, head to equitymates.com. But otherwise, Ren, we're going to be back next week with more stocks, more industries, and everything that it says in our opener.
Yeah, and separate couches.
We'll see you then.